Hey guys, so in this second video, I'm going to help refresh your memory on creating the drawing sheet for a part in OnShape. So I'm going to do part number 1 that I had created in the last video. You, of course, will be working on drawing number 2 and drawing number 3 when you get there. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my part file for 1.2.4 drawing number 1. And the place to create that drawing tab at the bottom is to use the plus symbol. So we're going to create drawing. And we've got that ANSI standard drawing template, no views. Go ahead and click OK. Once we're in here, it just automatically pops up and allows us to choose the part that is open. So we're going to go ahead and select that. This is a front view. And you can see that the scale is quite big. It's a 1-to-1 scale. So we're looking at, 3.5 inch wide item on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So we might want to change this to maybe 1.2, make it a little bit smaller. If you hit enter, then it will actually resize for you. Or you might feel like, hey, you know what? That's really now a lot smaller than what it was. So we could do 1 to 1.5 and hit enter. And that's kind of a nice in-between there. So let's go ahead and click to place that front view. And automatically the projected view item is selected. So we can go ahead and create the right view. But on our drawing sheet that we were working on from the packet, the right view was unnecessary. So let's go ahead and place the top view instead. That places it there. Re-click the front view, and now we can drag the isometric up. All right, so that all looks pretty good. In fact, it looks pretty much exactly like what was on our sheet. So this is the updated image with some additional measurements that I needed and the accurate measurements. If you watched the first video, you found that I had some errors there. Okay, so with all that in mind, we need to make sure that all of those dimensions and all of those line conventions get added to our drawing file. So let's start with the line conventions. We know which ones we need. So like the center mark, we need the center mark on both of these circles. All right, so we got it in there. We also need some hidden lines and some center lines. So go ahead and right click on an object. And if you're not able to see that entire list, you might need to zoom out. There we go. So that we can show hidden lines. And we'll do the same thing up here, show hidden lines. So zoom does matter. Okay, so we've got some hidden lines. Remember, we don't do anything to the isometric, although we could right click it and show shaded view. That was something that was not present on the packet that was handed out, but it's kind of helpful in the digital environment. Last items, we need those center lines to go through these holes. So we'll go ahead and click on 2-point center line and locate the center. I don't really see it changing image for us because we want it to be directly above that. So you can use that kind of technique of highlighting and trying to get where we're going there. All right, so that one looks pretty good. So yeah, if you just hover and pull down, it'll help you locate it. And yeah, we want to make sure that's, nice and in line. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so that takes care of all of those line conventions that were needed on the part. Now we need to add the dimensions. So if we hover over some of these options up here, we have insert view, projected view, auxiliary view, section view. Those are some things that we will get to in later sections of the class. But right here, we have dimension. And we have several options here. We have several options under here. We're going to focus on the plain dimension piece because that's what we do for edges, for locations, for regular width, height, depth, that kind of thing. We also have something called diameter dimension, which we will need for our circles that we created. The very bottom one is a hole call out. If we had used a specific hole creation in the part making, that's what we would use. But because we created just a circle and then cut material away, we're going to use diameter dimension. So we're going to go ahead and place this diameter kind of off to the corner there. And we're going to do the same thing up here, off through the corner. That's a good place for leader lines to go because they have to be diagonal. Then we'll come back up here, choose that regular dimension piece, and we'll start adding the dimensions that we had from our packet that we had already created. So we have that overall width. We also need the dimension from the left edge to the center of that circle. And you'll see these pink lines popping up. Those are some ANSI standard locations. And so we definitely want to make sure that the 3.5 is out farthest away. But we do want to nest the 2.00 underneath it. And I don't see any pink lines showing up to help me with that 3.50. So we tend to try to just kind of nest them neatly, where the smaller dimensions are always underneath the bigger dimensions. So let's go ahead and do this dimension here. There's a pink one. And we'll also dimension from the bottom to that center. If I do something and I don't like it, hit the undo button, or Control Z, or Command Z, depending on what kind of laptop you're using. So we want that regular dimension from the bottom to that center point. Or maybe we can just identify the circle. It'll automatically pop up. So this is the location where it should be. If we got confused and maybe dragged it all the way out here, you can see that that looks bad or kind of messy because it's crossing those dimension and extension lines. So it really does belong in here. And it looks like it's going to put the arrows on the outside because it's having trouble just having enough room, although you can move it and try to force it to be on the inside, potentially. Okay, well, I got it to flip there once, but we'll leave it just like that. So lines are not crossed. Everything is, on the outside. We try to put items on top and on the right as much as possible. We try to avoid putting things on the bottom unless we really just need more room, or it would be cleaner to put something on the bottom of the part. So that takes care of all of the sizing and location dimensions. Up on the top view, we have a couple because we need to locate that circle. So it's not popping up quite the way that I intended. Let's try this one more time. It's trying to give me a height instead of a... There we go. Okay, so like I mentioned, we try to put things off to the right. However, this circle is much closer to the left edge. So it makes more sense that we would try to place it over there. We also need that overall depth. So we'll pull that off to the right because it would be cleaner to be on the right. And lastly, we want to dimension between the left edge and the location of the center of the hole. And you can see that we've got some overlap here, so I would pull this one down just a little bit further to get it away from the dimension arrows on that left edge. So this is complete. We have all of the sizing and location dimensions, and it's also very neatly drawn. Things are neatly put together, and that's one of the goals, is so that it's readable and complete. So go ahead and work through drawing number 2 and drawing number 3, create the parts in OnShape, and then create the multi-view that is fully dimensioned, has all the line conventions in there. See what you can do with that.